Now, over to the UK, where a review has revealed that over 100 officers and staff at the Metropolitan Police were wrongly hired, including two, get this, serial rapists, thanks to a relaxation of the force's recruitment process. A vetting panel which partly aimed to improve diversity, which of course we all know is our strength, overturned more than 100 previously denied applications, including the application of a man who was alleged to have sexually assaulted a child. Joining me now to talk about this and more is star host of GB News, Patrick Christys. Patrick, this is a shocking story just when I thought these things couldn't get any worse.
Absolutely bonkers. This is jaw-dropping, it's mind-boggling, and surely this has to be the final nail in the coffin for the diversity brigade. Sadly, it probably won't. So the Metropolitan Police Force, a force that's already been blighted by a lot of scandal, inaction, huge crime waves, all of this stuff. They decided that the best thing for them to do was to introduce essentially diversity quotas. The problem for them was that they didn't meet their diversity quotas. So they went back to look at a load of applicants who had failed to become police officers. They'd failed and they thought, we'll give them another go. And then they let them in. And unfortunately for the Metropolitan Police, and unfortunately for all of us, that included people like a man who is now serving 17 and a half years in prison for 13 counts of rape, and several against a child under the age of 13 as well. And the even more damning thing here is that he had already been investigated for paedophilia, but that case was dropped. He'd failed a decision initially to let him into the police because he'd failed their background checks. They
Good
decided to
Lord.
relax that and let him in, singularly because he happens to be a black man, and they wanted to hit their diversity quotas. It is astonishing. In all, 114 decisions were overruled, and they were allowed to come into the police force. 25 of them involved going on to commit criminal offences or misconduct. So we literally, just for the sake of ticking diversity boxes, employ people who ended up committing some of the most horrendous crimes in the police force. I mean, you couldn't make it up, really.
Well,
It's astonishing.
I mean, you couldn't, but of course it's the truth. And I always love having guests like yourself from the UK over on this program and my programs, because this is a warning system for Australians that this is where we are heading. Which brings me to the next topic here, which is the UK's Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who has been accused of hoodwinking Britons after she threatened a Trump-style visa crackdown on a trio of African nations who refused to take back citizens that were deported. But it doesn't sound like that quite happened. Patrick, tell us a bit more about this one.
I mean, this is utterly laughable. So Shabana Mahmood is our Home Secretary. She threatened some African countries and said, hey, if you don't take back your illegal migrants, we're going to block visas, legal visas for you. She said, the days of Britain being a soft touch are over. Okay, great. What countries did she go for? Did she talk about Somalia? Did she talk about Eritrea, Sudan, Nigeria? No, she went for Angola, Namibia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. In total, Angola and Namibia had 3 illegal migrants into the UK in the last few years. They have now agreed to take them back. But the Democratic Republic of Congo is now playing hardball with Great Britain. There are 11 illegal migrants, apparently, that came over last year from the DRC, and they're refusing to take them back. So absolutely astonishing this. It turns out that modern Britain has absolutely no leverage over the Democratic Republic of Congo because the DRC knows that they can just appeal things in international human rights courts. I mean, it is an absolute shocker of a story. It's completely not worth the paper it's written on in terms of these threats to these countries. Meanwhile, we've had around 40-odd thousand illegal migrants arrive in Britain last year. We've already welcomed our first batch of illegal migrants across the channel so far this year. And do you know that 50% of all new homes in Britain by 2030 will be occupied by newly arrived migrants. Now, yeah, obviously, loads of those will be legal, don't get me wrong, but still, pretty damning situation when you think that, we're obviously not really in control of our borders, are we? I mean, it's an absolute nightmare, this.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's why I say that things like the courts of human rights and also the refugee conventions need to be strongly reconsidered, including here in Australia. Hey, just quickly, Patrick, tell me about this proposal to lower the blood alcohol limit for drink driving in England and Wales, and how even a single pint now could prevent you from getting behind the wheel. A lot of people are saying this is a war on traditional country pubs, and God knows England needs to save these as much as they can. What's going on here?
Yeah, look, just quickly, left-wing socialists don't like fun, and they certainly don't like British culture, which means that pubs are firmly in their crosshairs. At the moment, you can have about 2 pints and drive. What they want to do is make it so that you can have basically less than 1 pint and drive, which will stop you going to the pub. It's not really about drink driving and road safety. They already do this in Scotland. The figures show that road traffic collisions went up. They also show that alcohol consumption remained the same. People just stopped going to the pub. So this is going to end up being the death of pubs, especially in rural areas. And Labour basically is standing accused of, like I said, going to war with pubs. And I do think that maybe like every single supervillain, there's an origin story, isn't there? Well, Sir Keir Starmer was very famously booted out of a pub during COVID by a landlord who said, "Get that man out of my pub." And I can't help but wonder whether or not ever since then he's thought, "I'm going to come for you." But look, they don't understand British culture, this Labour government. They don't understand British life, and they don't want to see us carry on with pubs. They're also, anyway, I'll leave it to you.
Look, I'm going to let you go to the pub now. Thank you so much for joining me and explaining this. And, we got to save our pubs both in Britain and in Australia because that's a pretty important gathering place. Thank you so much, Patrick Christie, for your time.